Have you ever wondered why the greatest tests of the soul happen in silence? It's not when we're seen that we show our strength. It's when no one is watching, when the world falls silent, and all that remains is us and our thoughts. There is no applause, no witnesses, only the echo of our desires and the invisible weight of our choices. It's in that bare space between desire and restraint, between impulse and self-control, that true power is born. The desert is not a punishment. It's a mirror that doesn't lie. It doesn't show us what we want to see, but what we truly are. When no one else is looking, there are no distractions. There the ego screams, but the soul whispers. And whoever faces their own reflection without running, without adornment, without excuses discovers that strength doesn't need to flaunt itself. It doesn't shout. It endures, because true power is self-mastery. Stay until the end of this video if you feel like you're going through a desert in life, a moment of emptiness, waiting, silence. Here, you won't find easy formulas, but you will find direction. Here, every word is a steady stone to cross your inner path, and if you value inner silence, self-control, and wisdom that stands the test of time, subscribe now. This is more than a channel, it's a temple of clarity amid chaos. Today, we'll uncover the Stoic message behind true power is born in the desert, the temptation of Jesus. Jesus had been baptized. The waters of the Jordan still dripped from his skin when the Spirit led him into the desert, a place where there is no noise, no crowd, no distraction. Silence reigns absolute. It's not the kind of setting where you'd expect to find power. Yet it was exactly there in the rawest isolation that true power began to take shape. For 40 days and 40 nights, Jesus was alone. No food, no shelter, no friendly voice, only the scorching heat of day, the bitter cold of night, and the weight of his own conscience. There was no audience, no visible enemies, no one to convince, impress, or heal. There was only him, and what lived inside him. This is the setting of the true test, the desert of the soul, not a battle against external forces, but against what dwells within: fear, pride, hunger, the desire for control. The desert is, symbolically, the mirror where the ego reflects itself without masks. It's where a human being confronts everything they'd rather avoid and where there's no escape. The first temptation comes subtly, almost reasonably. Hunger, the body begs, the stomach cries out. The mind, with its subtle logic, whispers, if you are the Son of God, turn these stones into bread. The suggestion isn't violent, it's rational. Why not meet a basic need? Why not ease his own suffering with a simple act? But that's precisely where the test lies. The appeal isn't just to the body. It's to the urgency of immediate satisfaction, the temptation to use divine power for personal ends. Jesus listens. He feels it, but he doesn't yield. His response is sharp, firm, clean. Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of God. He rejects the illusion that life is only about what feeds the body. He resists the impulse to seek relief over purpose. Bread feeds the stomach. Clarity feeds the spirit. The second temptation, more sophisticated, appeals to pride. The devil takes him to the highest point of the temple and proposes, throw yourself down. If you are the Son of God, the angels will protect you. It's a challenge disguised as faith, a call to prove his worth in the eyes of the world, to display power through spectacle, to justify his identity with performance. But Jesus, again, has nothing to prove. He doesn't defend himself, doesn't exalt himself, doesn't respond with theatrics. He refuses. His answer is calm and final. You shall not put the Lord your God to the test. What's being rejected there isn't just a literal suggestion, but the entire trap of living to meet others' expectations. Jesus refuses the game of validation because he knows his worth without needing to display it. He becomes, in this way, master of himself. His security doesn't depend on external recognition. His silence is worth more than 1,000 declarations. The third temptation is perhaps the most seductive of all: dominion. The enemy shows him all the kingdoms of the world, their riches, their glory, their power, and makes a direct offer. All this I will give you, if you will bow down and worship me. It's the allure of total control, the promise of unrestricted access to what men spend their lives chasing: influence, authority, glory, a crown without a cross. But Jesus already rules where it matters most, within himself. He doesn't need thrones that demand the soul as payment. He doesn't desire victories that require submission to error. His response, as before, is firm and brief. Away from me, Satan, for it is written, worship the Lord your God and serve him only. The choice is clear. Jesus could have everything, but he chooses to remain whole. He chooses integrity over ambition, and in doing so, he shows that true reign begins with self-discipline. At the end of the ordeal, Jesus leaves the desert. There's no fanfare, no witnesses. No one saw what happened there, but the one who emerges is not the same as the one who entered. Not because he gained something, but because he let go of what he didn't need. His power now doesn't depend on miracles, it depends on the solidity of his identity. The miracle is himself, forged in silence, purified by renunciation, strengthened by self-mastery. The desert, then, wasn't a punishment, it was a womb, a place where true strength could be born, far from eyes, far from noise, far from vanity. And that power, the kind that resists hunger, pride, and the desire for control, is the same power the Stoics would call virtue. It's not a power that conquers the external world, it's a power that conquers the inner world. What Jesus lived there is the embodiment of the philosophy of self-mastery. As Epictetus would teach centuries later, no man is free unless he is master of himself. And in that desert, Jesus showed that true freedom isn't doing whatever you want, it's having the strength to say no when everything in you wants to say yes. This wasn't just a mystical episode, it was a silent manual on moral strength, a living lesson on how to act when no one is around, when all is silent, and when the easiest thing would be to give in. Jesus didn't leave that desert with the world at his feet, he left with his own feet firmly on the ground. And that is power. What Jesus faced in the desert was not, at its core, an external trial. There were no wild beasts, armies, or crowds before him. The real enemy was invisible. The battlefield was within, and the opponents were human passions, the craving for instant gratification, the need for recognition, the hunger for control. Three variations of the same weakness, the loss of one's center. What was at stake was not the body, but the soul. Not physical survival, but spiritual integrity. Jesus confronted the temptations of the flesh, of pride, and of ambition, and chose the quieter path, restraint, not out of cowardice, but mastery. Not out of submission, but wisdom. As Epictetus would say, no man is free unless he is master of himself. Jesus, in that moment, was absolutely free, not because he could do everything, but because he chose not to do what he didn't need to. He possessed power, but was not possessed by it, and that is rare, because most of us are not only tempted to do wrong but to prove we can do good, even if out of vanity. Jesus refused to turn stones into bread, not for lack of power, but for clarity of purpose. He didn't need to conquer hunger. He needed to master his own impulse to act unnecessarily. Seneca reminds us, it is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that they are difficult. The desert was cruel, not just for its lack of bread or shade. It was cruel because it demanded remaining whole in silence. And that is harder than any visible battle. What makes the desert harsh is not the sun, it's the confrontation with everything we avoid when we're too busy to feel. True pain sometimes lies in what we refuse to face within ourselves. Jesus dared. He dared to wait. He dared to refuse. He dared to remain true to his center. And in doing so, he revealed that strength is not noise, it's steadiness, not explosion, it's restraint, not conquest, it's conscious surrender. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What pains you is not what happens, but your judgment of it." Jesus could have interpreted that isolation as abandonment. He could have believed his mission had been forgotten, that the absence of relief was a sign of divine neglect. But no, he didn't play the victim. He didn't yield to self-pity. He interpreted the silence as training, as a proving ground to solidify his essence. And that is what makes him not just a spiritual leader, but a model of self-discipline and higher awareness. This is the virtue of resistance, not the resistance that hardens against the world and builds walls, but the kind that remains open without being corrupted. The resistance of maturity, the kind that understands not every impulse must be followed, not every emotion must be fed, not every power must be used. The virtue of one who knows their own limits and honors them not out of weakness, but integrity. Jesus did not seek to conquer another, he conquered himself, and that, in the Stoic view, is the greatest victory. True freedom is not doing whatever you want. It is being able not to do what pulls you away from your essence. In the desert, Jesus did not defeat the devil in the popular external sense. He defeated the internal mechanisms that could have corrupted his character. He denied instant satisfaction, inflated ego, and the lure of absolute control. He emerged whole not because nothing touched him, but because everything passed through him, and nothing broke him. Like the Stoics, he did not surrender to the emotion of the moment. He trusted reason, awareness, mission, and that is the rarest power one can attain, staying in control even when everything inside begs for surrender. That is the true strength that turns the desert into a sanctuary. And you, what is your desert today? Perhaps it's not a physical place. Maybe it's an inner space where everything seems stagnant. Maybe it's that moment when you wait for an answer that doesn't come, a door that won't open, a healing that hasn't arrived. Perhaps you're surrounded by people and yet feel an emptiness no one can fill. You smile on the outside, but inside, you carry the weight of silent waiting, of a struggle no one sees. Is it God's silence that troubles you? The absence of signs, direction, confirmation? Or is it the feeling that you must prove something to the world, to your family, to those who hurt you, or even to yourself? You try to show strength, success, progress, but deep down, what you seek is approval, worth, peace. But peace isn't won by shouting, it's born the moment you stop trying to prove. Maybe you're trying to turn stones into bread, insisting on forcing results, rushing processes, conquering at any cost, something that isn't yet ripe. But what if this not yet is actually your training ground? What if this silence so uncomfortably is the subtlest form of refinement? Could it be that this silence bothering you is your preparation? That what feels like rejection is protection? That what you see as delay is actually the exact rhythm of your becoming? Are you living your own invisible prison, trapped by the need to be accepted, praised, understood, trapped by the fear of being forgotten, abandoned, left behind? Are you sacrificing your essence to fit into someone else's expectations? Are you trying to prove your worth to those who've already discarded you, and in doing so, discarding yourself to? Jesus didn't fall into these traps. He didn't rush to meet the challenge. He didn't try to impress. He didn't look for shortcuts. He discerned. And that is true power. Remember, real power isn't in reacting, it's in discerning. Discerning when it's time to act, and when it's time to wait. Discerning whether a door is closed because it's not yours, or because it's not yet the right time. Jesus didn't justify himself before temptation. He answered with clarity, with firmness, with awareness, and he left the desert stronger than he entered, not because he defeated someone else, but because he defeated himself. You can too. You are also being refined by a desert no one sees. But the question is, will you resist or yield? Will you interpret this season as punishment or preparation? The pain of waiting, the frustration of silence, the feeling of invisibility, all of it may be shaping in you a strength you don't yet understand. You don't have to prove anything. You don't have to conquer the world to feel worthy. You just need to learn to endure in silence. And when that silence is overcome not by noise, but by presence, you'll realize that what seemed like absence was actually transformation. Your desert is not the end. Perhaps it's the beginning of who you're about to become. The wise man does not choose the easiest path. He honors the path that was given to him. And perhaps this is what the desert reveals. It's not about running away. It's not about shortcuts. It's about remaining. The desert is not a place of punishment. It is a space of refinement. It is where all that is superfluous dies, and only the essential survives. There are no masks, no audience, no distractions. There is only you, and the voice echoing from within. It is in this emptiness that seems barren that the soul finally listens. It is in the heat of day and the cold of night the spirit learns to walk by faith, even when the feet bleed. Jesus did not leave the desert with visible glory. He left with clarity, with steadfastness, with self-mastery. And that is what true power does. It does not shout. It does not need to prove. It simply is. If this story has touched something deep within you, if you are facing the silence of your own desert and wish to keep walking with wisdom, purpose, and clarity, consider following this channel. Here, every video is more than a reflection. It is a silent compass for the soul. And remember, with your whole being, before any miracle comes silence. Before revelation comes solitude. Before awakening comes surrender. But those who endure the desert, in silence, in truth, do not come out the same. They come out ready.